I'd like to recognize the presence of our seniors, our very senior architect Dolores. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. There's just no way we can't recognize you. It's not there. Thank you very much. So I'd like to introduce myself to you. My name is Jackie. I'm an architect and I also hold the office of Vice President of the Ghana Center of Architects. We're going to do this in a chronological manner of our lives. Went to school, went to the field, what happened after that. Some of us started our farm, became married, or got kids or whatever. We're going to go in that depth. I'm passing on the microphone to our speakers so I can also give you a brief introduction about themselves so that you can understand why they're going to be here.
My name is Flora Runumi. I'm an architect and I graduated in 1995 and I've been practicing since then. I had my own farm. I've been also, I'm an arbitrator in construction industry issues. I've been the chairperson of the Architects Registration Board and the vice president. I held her position at some point in the Ghana Society of Architects. So I have positions I've also held at the East Africa Institute of Architects and the Africa Union of Architects. So I like leadership positions that would help the architectural profession, as well as being a wife. I got married in 1995. I'm still married. I have 3 children. They are boys. Actually, they are big men now. 1995 is a long time ago. Yeah. So I'm a mother as well.
I am Lilian Namuganyi. I am an architect. I have a background in art as well. I graduated in 1996 and then worked towards being an architect. Almost all my career has been teaching, although initially I worked at a farm with a colleague who I had gone to school with. I haven't done that many projects, but I have worked with technology consults. So some of the projects you will see on the Makerere campus I have done, and Kyambogo, I did work briefly on the Kyambogo main building revamp, and some of the halls of residence, and a few other small projects, residential here and there. I feel that my position in education is a very powerful place. Yeah, I get to do a lot of projects by proxy. Yes, I'm a doctor also.
I'm called Kobuchindo Kwesiga. I graduated in 1999. I've been asking my classmates, and I was in 2005. But it's 1999. So we've been in the field for more than 20 years now. And in that time...
Madam, you look 20. So you also have to chip in that secret. How you're doing it, huh?
Architectural stress. So I've been running an architectural firm since 2006, solely as a female. I have 2 children. One has just completed civil engineering after 4 years. Yeah, and the other one is still in primary school. I've been a leader mainly on the Architects Registration Board as vice president for 2 terms. Outside of architecture, the other place where I have leadership is Rotary. I've been a Rotarian for 20 years and 22 actually now, from 2000. And I'm in the leadership space of Rotary. We get to lead about 4,000 volunteers.
My name is Jennifer Nkisi. I am a mother, my best project so far. I'm a Nalongo, I have 3 sons. I'm a grandmother. So I trained as an architect. It took a long time, I'm a middle child. I had to convince my father. It was very difficult. I'd never heard of the word architecture before, and I really wanted to be a painter and a sculptor. But of course, African father in the 19... said, what's that? But I'm very happy that he convinced me and helped me to choose a place that I was able to explore the different parts of who I am. I love traveling. I continue to travel a lot. I've lived in many different countries. I went to Kitante. Everybody was there in the 60s. But then I lived in Zambia and Switzerland, and I studied in England. I studied in the United States. I lived in West Africa. Lived kind of many different places. I lived in the United States. But I'm so happy to be home. I love being in Uganda. It's the best decision I ever made. And I found a different part of myself here. I have wonderful friends. I think it's an incredible time to be here, to be home. I'm very, very, very happy. I love mentoring. I have some amazing people I work with. We're very eclectic. I really believe in raising up other people, and I love to see other people discover who they are. So I've enjoyed mentoring, sort of not really in a very programmed way, but some of my wonderful young designers have gone on to do great things. I love reading, I love books, and I love investing in knowledge. And I think volunteer work is very important. I worked with the police for 4 years. And I remember thinking, how can we be part of the built environment? How can we care about this and not look around us? But I think volunteering is very important. I've worked with EMI. EMI is Architects Without Borders or Designers Without Borders. It's a mixed group of people. It is the most amazing thing to do. Again, I did it many years ago when I first came, but because I wanted to find out who I was and what I could do and how far I could stretch myself. And I think as people, as women, we have so much. We're so gifted, we're so capable. We can do so many things. But I applied to a course at Harvard Graduate School and Tufts University, but it was something I wanted to do, especially because of the person who was teaching. And her name is Anita Olds, and she specialized in designing healing environments. And I knew that's an area that I was interested in. It involves color, it involves experiential design, it involves taking care of people. And it was absolutely incredible. I have no regrets. It was worth saving, it was worth all the sacrifice. Unfortunately, she died of cancer very soon after. We were her last cohort. But I'll never forget the impact she made on me. So I think we should be conscious of our relationships with each other and what we say. We can inspire someone for life. You know, she really inspired me for life. I think I never cried so much when I heard she passed away. And I remember the words she said to that cohort, that please everybody go out and make a difference, do something you really care about.
So, being that we have this to be an organic conversation, and we want to take it step by step, we have so many students here who are very interested in understanding how you just navigated those 5 years. I mean, the first thing is 5 years. You're like, okay, let me think about that. And then I think it's the first year we'll get most of the students dropping out. And one of the reasons that Doctor is going to be very sensory here is because she deals with the students, so she knows what's going on, and Macho here. So she knows what's going on, what's distracting you guys, what's keeping you from getting those 90s, or what's getting them dropped out and all that. But let's start from the student life.
By the time I was in S6, I didn't even know that there was such a course. I was just pushing myself as hard as I could to do as best as I could. But in S6, we had a career guidance teacher who actually told me, she called me aside and said, Flora, you can do anything you want. You can do any profession you want. And that's the worst thing you can tell me, because I'm totally confused. So what are you guiding me about? I got totally confused. And then she said, but there's this one course that has just started at Makerere, it's architecture. Are you interested? And the bulbs just went off in my head. It was like, when you are so like inspired to the point where you are at peace, this is it.
It's called divine revelation.
Yes, that's what happened to me. So I knew that I was putting every other choice, engineering, statistics, in that order, but my choice was architecture. I could already feel the passion for it, even when I didn't exactly understand the details. But that's how I entered the Makerere University course, and it was new. There was 1 year behind us, the year that had Dr. Ian, if you've interacted with him. And then we were the next intake. And I was the only girl in that whole department for like 3 years.
How did that
and it was
feel?
wonderful.
It was wonderful. What made it wonderful?
I said, wonderful, first of all, because I enjoyed the course so much. I would call myself a nerd. I enjoyed it so much. It was so my thing, but also, yes, I was doing well in class, but the men, the boys, were very cordial and very supportive. At that time, we didn't have computers. We didn't have, we had drafting tables, but they were wooden, and we would carry them from class to our rooms. They were like A1 boards. And I was in, if you know Makerere, I was in CCE. And technology was way behind there at the end of the world. But every morning by 7, I was carrying my board, walking from across Lumumba. And it never even occurred to me that there was a problem with it. And I was really, really tiny. Like, I was a size 8. But I had carried this board all the way, every day. And in the morning, I'd wake up feeling like I want to go to work, I want to go to study. I'd be in technology from 7 to 7. There was no canteen at that time. The facilities were for males. I'd find a time when there are no men in their bathrooms, and that's when I'd go to the bathroom. It was very unconducive for females to study there at that time in technology, but you find a way. You find a way. And we found a way. And then at some point I would find people on the road to technology who said, oh, young girl, bring and I help you to carry that board. And they would carry for me up to technology. You'd get things like that happening. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you're passionate about something, you will not perceive any difficulties. And that's how I went through my student life. But there is another aspect. When I entered the first year, and the first day of class, we were 8 in the class, the 7 boys cocooned together, and we're talking about how during S6 VAC, they went on sites. I was laying DPC. I don't know what DPC was. And I'm quaking, I'm thinking, oh my God, DPC. How am I going to pass through this course when people already know and they are men? But guess what? When the lecturer came in, the first lecture was lettering. It wasn't DPC. It was lettering, how to write. And I'm telling you, some people wanted to leave because people had come into that course with triple B, triple A. I also had my high marks. But they were expecting DPC, oxygenated cement. And I'm thinking, we're going to do lettering. We were in nursery school, we were painting, we were drawing people. We were not even drawing houses yet. We were drawing people in first year. And for me, it calmed me down. That part where I was a bit anxious, I got calm. And then we had such good lecturers. At the time, because the school was starting, we had architects coming from the field, from their offices, Ugandan architects. They trained elsewhere, but they'd come and support the school. But we also had the Norwegians who were sponsoring the school to start up. So all those lecturers, were helping us to start the school and to train the students, and they told us the difference between being technical and being a designer. You're going to have to learn to be creative. It wasn't to learn what, it was to learn how. And that process confuses a lot of people when you're in first or second year, because you're expecting to learn what, and you're gearing up for very complicated things. When you're supposed to actually be learning, even growing as a person. And so I enjoyed, I would say, my 5 years. They were long, and my friends graduated in third year and left, and you feel lonely in fourth year when you're the only girl and the only one who hasn't graduated. But there is a lot of work to do. We would rest. We called it resting. We would never sleep, but we would rest. And one of the lecturers told us that you people are going to do a lot of work when electricity goes. Electricity used to go a lot. It's when you sleep. When the electricity is on, you have to work. Yes, you have to work, but I embraced the work. It was not something I dreaded. It was something I woke up to enjoy doing, which is what helped me to go through the immense quantity of work that's required from first year to fifth year.
I'll start from there. There's some, you said it was a lot of work, you enjoyed it. There's something that I call beautiful pain. Architecture school is so painful, but it's a pain that's so beautiful you cannot live without it. I could not live without it. I will go back to where I started. I believe that being creative is not going to school to be creative. Being creative is a way of life. And that is one mistake that many people in our world, in Uganda, make. They feel like they can make an architect. A part of the architect is made, but I think the architect's journey starts from when they're children. I recall as a child, and I look at this in retrospect. I remember as a child, I played house. My parents' compound, our compound, was full of little roads. Our parents and our neighbors' compound was full of little roads and little houses and little make-believe cars driving through this whole city, neighborhood, going to different houses. And it's interesting that one of our neighbors' children became a drafts lady. And I became an architect. I don't think that's a coincidence. I started painting when I was as far as I can remember, when I was 4 years old. I got my first set of watercolors. And ever since then, I was always making one thing or another, even as a child. I studied sciences at A level, but I still felt I needed to keep my art. So I kept painting through it all. I kept making clothes. I'm not a fashion designer. I can't make a shirt as such because I don't know the details of fashion and tailoring. But I can make some item of clothing in my way. So it isn't, architecture isn't something that came to me abruptly. I remember my parents telling their friends after my A-level, our daughter is going to be a doctor. Our daughter is going to be a doctor. And at some point I snapped in front of my parents' friends. I said, I have no interest in being a doctor. And my parents were shocked. They've been telling everybody their daughter was going to be a doctor. So then I went on to do to art school, after which I went to Britain, where I met my own Jennifer here. And it was an exciting time in my life. Even if I'd come from an art background, there's a time at which art gets stifled, even if you're very creative. The world we lived in, especially at that time, there was a way people looked down upon artists. They did not fully grasp the importance of art or the extent of art. So I had some catching up to do, especially in terms of the mentality and the freedom with which I did my work. But it was an exciting time, very sleepless nights, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
The beautiful pain.
The beautiful pain. And this is a story I tell often. I remember there's a lady who used to come in to clean, and she found me seated on my bed crying. And she said, "Oh, you beautiful lady, why are you crying?" And she said, "I'm tired. I'm very tired." And she said, "But I think it was 7, but it's 7 o'clock in the morning." And I said, "I haven't slept for 3 days." I hadn't slept for 3 days. And I was so tired, but I still had to go. I had a tutorial. I still had to go, and I was seated on my bed crying. So that's what I remember about architecture school. But apart from that, studying out of Uganda was a real privilege, because you're meeting people from different backgrounds. You're meeting people from China, you're meeting people from Japan, people from United States, and they're bringing different perspectives. Not only that, you're in a very creative place, you're with facilities, workshops. I enjoyed working in the workshop with machines, and you're not being told this is for men or this is for women. It was a more liberal society, really. And it's interesting that I learned about Africa from non-Africans. Many of you see me very active, proactive, an activist almost. But my eyes were opened to Africa in Europe, and many times by Europeans or Asians, Japanese people. I had a Japanese friend who introduced me, for example, to African film and to African American or Black literature. So it was a very beautiful time for me. Yeah.
First and foremost, I think I was lucky that the year that I joined had very strong girls. There's one here, Verna, Miriam, Patricia. Most of you might have seen those along the way. Miriam is now on the ARB, Patricia's been in University of Architects. So we had this support group. We had this little band. I don't know what to call us. I can't say a den of thieves. We were thick. So we used to support each other. So I didn't really feel, first of all, the male element. Because the girls in that particular class had no fear of males. So it was just school like any other. So we didn't feel that maybe this course was for women, for men. It was just a course like any other. And as Rona mentioned earlier, I think one of my fears then was to spend 8 years in a place. It's already 5 years. How can you possibly repeat? That was what led me on. Just do this thing and finish it. So I looked at architecture school like anything else. Do your best and get out. That's it. But the second thing I liked about it was the fact that there was no actual right or wrong. I've always not liked the thing of 1 + 1 must be 2. I've been in that type of 1 + 1 could be 0, or 1 + 1 could be 0.079 over something, something different. So it was a space where you were allowed to be yourself. And the thing that I enjoyed the most was the conceptualization. When you really get to study something and dissect it and go in there and discover things, that's the bit that I think really like. If I can add to what the two have mentioned, part of it is a character bit. So in as much as you go to architecture school and find this and the other, it worked with my character then, and we were free to do anything, dress anyhow. Verna would tell you could go to class with one red earring, one long one, one short one, wear a pink shoe and a blue one, and that type. Have half the hair off, have a place where I can express myself. So that's what I found in architecture school. The 5 years were many, but I think it's just part of life. And when you're younger, you can take a lot. It's 5 years, let me do it and get out of there and do other things. The thing that I felt that I missed was going out. I went out. Yeah, I went out. I could have done more. So I feel like a bit of my childhood was missed. But then I made up afterwards. So just the only reason I curbed my going out was because I just didn't want to spend 7 years. And even the fear of coming out, those lists and you're at the bottom of the class list. The fear of failure maybe, but it was a good time. I met friends that I still have up to this date. Yeah, and the study was good, and the depth of having to do things, that was exciting. I was in Makerere. I was in Makerere University for 5 straight years, and yeah, I didn't exactly find it difficult. I liked history of architecture. Remember, there was a big bad black book. I don't know what the book was called.
Bannister.
It was really big, yes. I read it from the first page to the last page. Yes, and it had very small print. I think those small print I did were malicious. I don't know what the book was called.
Bannister Fletcher, I think that's what it was.
I don't know, it was a bad black book, but I read it from beginning to end, and it was really interesting. So I think it just appealed to that other side of I don't like these things of being told that this and this must be like this. If they say go through this door, I'll go through the window. So that place was okay. And it was so long ago anyway. Maybe I've learned to live with the painful pain. Painful pain, but it was just like everything else. Get in, do your best.
I had to go to school in London because there was no architecture school. Again, I'm revealing my age, but there was no architecture in Makerere at the time. There were definitely no computers, for sure. But one of my professors refused to come to teach us. He said we have to go, and he would teach us from his house, which was in Ireland, because he was busy developing computer coding for architects. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of beautiful pain. I had the most amazing professors. I'll never forget their names. One of them in particular, Charlie Mann, who was incredibly dedicated. I've never met anyone so dedicated to teaching. And we were always learning. It didn't matter whether we were having a cup of coffee with him. He would start drawing on anything that was short of drawing on your shirt. So I learned dedication from him. He was incredibly committed to the students, sacrificial. He would lend us his books. He always had time for us. I think part of our education journey is who we meet. It is hard work, but hard work is okay, especially if you love what you're doing. I also love what you're saying, the freedom. I mean, people would come in like all kinds of it. People would just look different. There was a lot of freedom. There were high expectations. It is not a joke. You're somewhere in the middle where science meets art. So there's double expectations from you all the time. There's a freedom but a tremendous responsibility. I remember the weight of the responsibility, thinking, oh, people are going to live in spaces. If you don't do things properly, it's really serious. But there's also freedom to be almost a sculptor or an artist, problem solving. And I also used to make houses for ants, by the way. Yes, I used to make houses for my ants in my parents' garden, and they've helped me remember that. It's a lot of work. You can't get away from it. And I think anybody who goes to university and doesn't want to work hard, just go and start your business. By the way, life is full of hard work. Embrace it. It's a good thing. Enjoy it. You never know how long you're alive for. Why would you go and do something and then despise it? Life is so full. It's such a blessing. There's so much. I mean, I feel like I'm always at university. I know I've got grey hair, but I'm telling you, I still feel 25. You know, I'm like, life is so interesting. What am I going to do next?
Some of us just let us die, like it's not grey hair at all. It's just a little bit of dye.
This was kind of a mistake, but anyway, this is mine. Okay. But I think you should embrace hard work. Whether you're a scientist, an inventor. I'm seeing somebody, Monica. Hi, Monica. Monica knows about hard work. Monica, I have the pleasure of working with Monica. Monica was at my house on Christmas Eve. We were working, it was midnight. I made dinner for Monica, and we were laughing. And I was happy because she said, this is such a great experience. Even though you're having hard work in front of you, it's up to you to change your attitude towards it. It's nobody else's responsibility. It's yours. You're alive, you can choose to be happy in it, you can choose to look at it as a problem. You will get exactly what you give, and you cannot give what you do not have. So invest in yourself. And I think my professors were so amazing and kind in my first year. And people do drop out, but that's not judgment. It just wasn't their thing. We started off, I think, about 25 of us. I think maybe 7 of us finished. People kept dropping out, we get more people, but the original group, I think maybe 7. Some people retired, some people got married halfway, others went and did other things, and became successful at them. So I don't think there is, I think we need to be kinder to ourselves and be really honest with what we're willing to put up with. But I think if you, I would say definitely surround yourself, as you're saying, when you have the camaraderie, when you have people around you and you're all going together, it changes the journey. The 5 people who are closest to you are going to influence your journey in life. Whether you're at university, whether you're progressing to get married, whether you're whatever, in the workplace. I would say I had some really great friends. There were lots of lonely times. There were lots of tears. I remember there was a time when I was like, at least I had a break. I can't imagine 5 straight years. But I had a break. I did 3, I broke, I worked, and then I went back and did another 2, then I worked. And it's not easy. I remember one year really, really, really struggling. And I think part of it is personal growth. And I think even if you're doing medicine, some people are really good doctors, and you can see when you go to see the doctor, they have something extra. I don't know how to explain it. You know when you have a sense of calm, and there's some who are vocational doctors, like vocational teachers, and then there's some who just pays the bills. So you need to choose as you decide whatever you decide to do, as an architect, as a designer, whatever. How much are you invested in it? Do you really want to have fun? This life is too good to be miserable. So make up your mind and have fun while you're doing it. I've had so much fun. I even feel like I better not. I had so much fun. I give myself freedom every single day. Hence, I've also done things when I worked up. I didn't have money, so I did a lot of very strange jobs. I did waitressing from my first year, because although I had a scholarship, it didn't come on time. Sometimes it didn't come. I had a Ghanaian roommate. We did waitressing. She'd get up at 4:30. We go waitressing. She'd do her course. I do my course. I come by. Architecture. Lunchtime, I worked in the library. Remember, Vivian? I worked in the library. Afterwards, you go back. You're a waitress in a restaurant. Then you go and do your work. It was not funny. But in the process, I learned a lot of skills. So I'm really good at cooking and making and presenting food because I had to do it in restaurants. I learned how to do welding. Yeah, remember the welding classes?
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
She loves workshop. She was always workshop. She makes some beautiful things. And yes, she says she worked in waitressing and learned some beautiful things, some very good skills. But if you're talking style, Jennifer is thin style.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you. You know, it was survival. But I had, and I remember the men, they kind of looked at you intimidating, but they had a great teacher. And he encouraged me until I was strong and brave enough. And I remember after I made my furniture, because I couldn't afford it, so I made it to put in my apartment. And I did carpentry. And but now it helps me. So don't despise the challenges. They are good for you. They will make you have other conversations. Whenever I meet carpenters and they say, "Oh, madam, you can't do it," I said, "Come, bring me the thing. Let's do this thing together." So I would encourage all of us, especially the people who haven't made up their mind or they want to do architecture. Architecture is more than just buildings, by the way. I think it's life. So when my staff come in on a Monday, I ask them, "Did you have a good weekend?" "You better have had a good weekend." "What did you do?" "I want to know what you did. Did you climb a mountain? Did you have a good party? What did you do?" Because that's what informs you about who you can become and how you relate. As a designer, whether you're a fashion designer, jewelry designer, I don't know. As a human being, this is all about relating. So I'm going to wrap it up, but I hope I've communicated that whatever you do, just enjoy the journey. And the more you learn, the more you open yourself up, receive other people, do things outside of your comfort zone.
Right. So is there a situation where you had some, relationships that were hindering you and was like, and now guy wants to go out, but I have portfolio. On Monday, I cannot sleep, or I have to be, that kind of thing. Did you have such distractions going through school?
I'm one person who didn't do relationships. I remember about 2 months ago, I asked one of my students, a male student, who had completed architecture school. I said to him, "Do you have a girlfriend?" He said, "No, I couldn't do girlfriend and architecture." And that is exactly what my position was. I could not do boyfriend and architecture. They just don't mix.
Yes.
But I did have a lot of fun in architecture school. I managed to mix fun and architecture school. We had, when our projects in architecture school at the Architecture Association were almost always out of London. Sometimes we'd go to Berlin or we'd go to Paris or some little town in Italy. It was always out of London, except one. And on those trips were like holiday work, hard work with travel, which is fun. You get to see another place. You get to taste foods. Maybe I will say many of the kids at our school were very wealthy kids. So you also get a taste of the high society, European high society. And we would also have meals, working meals. So I think I saw the world better than a tourist does. I saw the world, things that you wouldn't see as a tourist, or things that you wouldn't enjoy as a tourist. And that's been one of the pleasures of also working as an academician, because academics is, you are also a professional student. You don't just teach, you study, and your studies will take you places, you will travel. We traveled a lot with Phyllis all over Africa. So I had the fun mixed in with the work and with the study.
There was this culture in Makerere at that time called benching. I don't know if it's still there. But regardless of what you were doing and who you were, people would knock on your room and come and sit. Men, boys, classmates, they'll just come and sit in your room from morning till night. I was benched. That's why it was called benching. I was benched. And even when I was being benched, as I said, I was clueless. I had my board. Remember the board? It was the way CCE is arranged. There are 2 beds in a tiny room, like a quarter of this room. And beyond the bed is a table with shelves for your books, one side, shelves for the books of this guy, that side. Now I had my shelves, my books, my board on the table. My drafting instruments, my paints, everything under the bed. Everywhere on my side was full, architectural stuff on the bed, everywhere. So they'd bench and sit on my friend's bed. And being clueless, I was drawing each time they come. Hello, what is your name? Strangers, they don't even know who they have come to bench. They've just been told, there's a girl in room 20. So they come and they'll ask, what's your name? I'm Flora. I'm looking for Flora. Hey, what are you doing? I'm drawing. And I don't know if they've come to see my roommate or me, but they are there. And now I learned to just continue, converse as I draw, ignore as I draw, because I was clueless, I was a nerd, I didn't know what they wanted. When they would say what they wanted, can I go to one day and buy you chicken? Say, no, I'm not hungry. Or they will bring it. I said, okay, I'll eat it later. Like, things bouncing off your head, like you don't know what they want. But that was something I even got used to and had to navigate, as in I had to finish my work. And my work was so interesting for me. I was vaguely hearing these conversations. They were background. Now, the lucky thing happened for me. I would call it lucky because when I got to second year, this bencher, this bencher was a friend of my best friend. My best friend was in Mary Stuart. She had a relative. She like lauded me to this gentleman, and he came. He didn't bench. He didn't even bother to bench. He just came into the room, invited me to his house. He had a house. Invited me to his house for his birthday. And there were other benchers there. So he just comes in the room and he's really tall and really big and he's filling the room. And then he just says, come, we're going for my birthday at my house with your friend, and we went. Now, the thing is that, why I'm saying it was lucky is that on that day, in my second year, is when he asked me to marry him. On the first day. And I was in shock. Yes, I did. I was in shock that
second year, I knew him by word of mouth because my friend had really lauded him. And he was abroad, he was studying. When he came back, this day he came, it was his birthday, we went to his house. He asked me, are you going to marry me or not? I said, what the hell? What is he talking about? And then I told him no. Didn't your girl tell you I have a 5-year course? My dad is going to cut your head off. I'm not going to marry you. He says, okay, but I'm going to wait for you. And he waited for 4 years until I finished. In the meantime, he invited himself to my dad's house. He influenced my family. And then when he went, he had to do further studies, did masters. When he was there, he was sending me books. He was sending me clutch pens. I had more books than the library because we were just starting the architecture library in Makerere. I had everything. I think you'd even just go in a bookshop and say, oh, Gaudi, architect. I don't know, I had books. I lacked nothing. That is like the classic sugar daddy. So from second year onwards, even when there were benches there and he arrives in the room, they just scatter. I had no social life in that sense of multiples, but I had this person that I committed to, or he committed to me so early. And he committed in the sense that he was so aware of my passion for architecture. He embraced it even in his own life. Like when I went to third year, I was in a very crowded room. Instead of having 2 students, we were 3 because the Makerere intake had increased. And the 3 were not friends of mine. They were doing arts. The course of arts is very relaxed. I was dominating the room with stuff and they would get irritated. I was drawing 3 a.m., the light is on, they want to sleep. One of them actually woke up one night and said, was not really, I can't explain to her even what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. It looks ridiculous. And so I explained this to my boyfriend at the time. I said, I am struggling where I am. He said, you know what? I have a house. You don't need to squeeze there. I said, no, I'm not going to any house. I have to work. I have to hand in things. So I would still be at school, but I knew that if there were these days where we have a lot of work non-stop, 3 days, no sleep, I was not going to inconvenience my roommates. I had a place where I can do my 3 days in peace. And I took advantage of that. And he also embraced that. But then, I would say that maybe that's why when I introduced myself, I said I've been married since 95, because the moment I graduated in July, I was married in September.
Okay.
Well, Phyllis, maybe I missed. I might have missed. I don't know what I missed, because I wasn't feeling like I missed anything. I felt supported, I felt loved, I felt there was room for me to do my work as well, because if I was too busy, there was space. And so that was how I navigated that. But it's not to say that there were no other people who came and were trying to be the dominant people in my life as well as males. But they gave up. They would give up. Because it was so obvious that I was prioritizing my work. And so that's how I navigated that with the assistance of somebody else.
Yeah.
There's something in the way you carry yourself. You're